there's 2 trail races I'm doing internationally, so that'll be a new thing for me. But so yeah, basically what Fred said about solitude, the about the serenity, the solitude. Yes, there's times when you just want to be by yourself, right? And you just get out there and just go, and no one's out. Well, there might be 1 or 2 other persons out there, but basically it's you and you and you. You want to say me, myself, and I that's running, and so you're able to enjoy that, to enjoy the environment, the fresh air. No noise from cars, just you and maybe some birds and maybe a few small animals. Just pick the trails without the bears. and the last one, strength. Strength because a few years ago I was, I still do run this race up in New Rochelle. It's a trail race, a half marathon. And one particular year I had been running every week in Rock Creek Park on the Western Ridge that's all wooded. And I didn't realize how much stronger I was becoming. So I went to run the race this current year, and then I checked my watch when I crossed the finish line, and it said that I finished 30 minutes faster. I said, that's impossible. This was wrong. I said, let me just check the race director's results. It turned out it was 31 minutes faster. And it was all because I was doing the trail running week to week. I was doing the trail running, but I wasn't going fast. I was just, taking my time with it. There was a little bit of elevation. You do some jumping, things like that. But at the same time, it was more or less like I didn't realize how much stronger I was becoming. So while, a lot of people like to run, road races, get out there, do some trail. You don't have to do an extremely technical trail, but it's going to make you stronger in the long run. Just remember, you do not have to do it fast. Just be consistent with it.
Thank you. I would say like kinship and healing and a sense of feeling free at the beginning. Over time, and as we've seen in the last few years, feeling free is a privilege and no longer feels that way anymore just because of the situations that we're in this world. Bubba. But it's all about that deeper connection with the trails and with the lands, and it's been such a great source of healing and memories that I've had with my grandfather, with my mom, with people that I cared so deeply about. And I'm a 4th-generation runner, and it's been in my family for such a long time. And those memories are what fuels me to keep me going when times are hard. When I was overcoming an eating disorder, only the trails were my source of place to heal and redefine what food and that relationship meant to me, to get on a better path of healing and to take care of myself. When it's a hard day and it's been a hard week this week, getting out in the trails and being out in nature and taking 4 directions of breath and really disconnecting from everything that you're tied to plug back into nature and your surroundings. And it doesn't matter if you're in the woods or in an urban setting, getting that fresh air in your body is a source of clearing out what's been in you and going through you, and to be able to allow new energy to come into your life and for you to dictate and have agency of how that energy is going to move forward and how you are going to have control of that, and to keep moving forward and put one foot in front of the other, one stride in front of the other. And so for all my life, running has such a deep cultural connection, has a deep mental health connection, and has now an even bigger community connection when we get to be with our friends and our family walking or enjoying the trails and being outside.
So a few of you have already mentioned road running versus trail running, and I'm curious, how do they compare? Should we be comparing them? Oftentimes people have take the road running mindset into the trail running mindset, or into the trail, and might be disappointed. So what's your take? Road versus trail, how do we consider the two of them? Nobody wants to take this question. Freddie's got it.
I'll go first. So for me, it's I can't really choose between the two because they both satisfy either side of my brain. So they say I think the left side is the more analytical number side, and the right brain is the more creative side. So if we think about the left brain side, that's road running. It's about the watch, it's about pace, it's about, distance. And I'm a nerd. I'm a complete nerd. I go back to the Garmin, the Strava, I'm looking at all that stuff. just to not necessarily like see what they say, but more so to compare the difference. You know what I mean? To see where I'm progressing. When it comes to the trail, that's like the right side of my brain, where it's more the creative side. You know, I get a chance to just be free in my thoughts. I'm not thinking about the trail. I'm not thinking about my watch or anything like that. I'm more so being present in the space and enjoying the moment. And yeah, so that's to me the juxtaposition. That's why I like both of them.
And I have a follow-up on that. So when you went from road to trail, how did you manage your expectations, right? Because you could run on the road and run a 5K in a certain time, and then you go run the trail and you're like, wow, that is much harder. So how did you manage that initial switch over?
So I think my journey was kind of unique because when I actually first started running, it was like in 2010, but like I didn't start running in earnest until about 2019. I did like a couple marathons, 2010, 2015. And back then I didn't have like a watch or anything like that. In fact, when I first started running, I like went out in cotton sweatshirt, cotton polo sport,
it gets the job done,
and Reebok Classics, you know? So I wasn't caring about like, you know, pace or anything like that. My whole concern was just trying to finish. So I kind of had the same, more of a closer mindset to trail running starting out, doing road running. It wasn't until I got the watch, then I was like, oh, I can nerd out now. Okay, cool, I'm gonna satisfy that side. But then it was like I transferred the mindset, if you will, that I had going into it onto the trail, if that makes any sense.
People are always going to compare the two because, you know, there's always that aspect. For me, when you say compare, it's like, all right, let's take, for instance, a 5K. You know, you do a 5K trail, you do a 5K road. Typically, your 5K road is going to be a lot easier than your trail, right? But that 5K trail, depending on the technicality of it, can make it harder. So there's that difference there too. You're going to have different terrain. You're going to have even the trail is going to change based upon the weather, right? So it's kind of like, all right, I've got mud to deal with. I've got slippery rocks. On the road, it could be slippery, but you focus on, you know, your terrain is probably a lot more steady. When you look at trails, you typically are going to look at, well, what kind of gear am I going to have to wear? What do I need to carry with me based on the kind of trail I'm going on? If I'm going on a long distance trail, I know I'm going to have to carry water, maybe some small first aid, some type of, you know, maybe antibiotic, maybe some type of anti-animal spray, you know, all of the things that to make yourself feel safe on the trail that you're going to have to look at. But one of the key things that I've always said about trail running is that you have to follow, you know, your sixth sense when it comes to safety. Because a lot of times, you know, people think, oh, well, I just go out there and I'll just run, right? Well, sometimes we listen to our inner selves. We think, oh, well, that's just nothing. It's just, you know, my mind playing tricks on me. But then sometimes we have to listen to that inner self, and that inner self is saying, you know, if you remember the old TV show, I'm dating myself, Lost in Space, where the robot would say, danger, Will Robinson, danger, you know, so we follow that signal that says danger and turn around and go back. So,
well, I'm glad you said that, because when you and Freddie both said this idea of solitude and solace, that definitely resonated for me. And I know that for a lot of people, myself included, there can be this sense of fear of what happens on the trail in terms of animals, but also our historical memory of what happens to Black and brown people when they go in spaces they don't belong. So I appreciate that call out of trusting yourself, right? Preparing. And then if something doesn't feel right, it ain't right. So appreciate that.
But all right, so going back to what you just said about going to spaces that we don't belong.
Well,
we belong
historically,
in every space.
I said historically. I said historically. Fair.
Yes, every space is our space.
That's the truth. Anyone else want to jump in on this road versus trail, things to consider, different mindsets, expectations?
I've always kept, after high school, I've always kind of kept cross country and like running on trails as more of a me thing. I'm very much in love with roads. I love marathons. Got New York City coming up and every women's marathon coming up. So it's going to be an interesting back-to-back in 2 weeks. But yeah, I've always loved roads, and I've always been competitive, and my definition of competing has changed since the 2019 Boston Marathon, when I dedicated all 26 miles to 26 missing and murdered Indigenous women, and have really been using running as a platform to communicate that. And ever since then, competing isn't for me anymore. I'm still going to train because I'm a runner nerd. I like the stats. I like looking at my watch. I like seeing that I'm progressing. But when I get to the start line healthy, it's no longer about I have to beat this time or anything like that. It's I'm just lucky to be here for the many that can't be here. And when I did my first trail race, it was brutal. It was, I think it was a 12K that had 4,000 feet of elevation gain in just a 12K. And I was like, as they call it now, power hiking. Like, I didn't know that that existed. I was like, this is nothing compared to the cross-country trails that I'm used to, or like the easier trails that I'm, used to running back home. So it was definitely a rude awakening and a humbling experience. And it took a lot of patience and like telling myself, it's okay that you have to hike. It's okay that you have to walk. It's okay that it hurts this bad only a mile in, with like all of this vert. So it was a lot of mental effort to tell myself this is so different than road running, and you can't compare the two at all. You can't take your fastest marathon on road and compare it to a marathon on trail, because you will be heavily disappointed. But now I just like running on the trails with my friends and family, and have my husband mountain biking behind me, and usually he's sitting on the bike with him. So it's more just like a me thing and keeping it to myself, and I don't want it to be in a competitive space anymore. As over the years, competing has completely been redefined for me.
The one thing I love about trail running is that you can just be yourself. There's no pressure. You can walk. I walk a lot, going uphill, downhill. You also get the runner's high, but it's amazing, especially if you run through a state park, passing by a waterfall, a ledge, seeing the valley, or reaching the summit. It could be as high as 100 feet or 4,000. It's just amazing, just being out with Mother Nature. And then if you can do it with a great group of friends, you build a stronger bond, because you get to experience those challenges and hardship as a unit, not just a solo runner. Because you can take off on the road, but there's no way you can take off on a large hill. How fast can you run? You can't sprint the whole way. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So I love both. I definitely encourage trail running in the spring and fall. You get to see the foliage and the trees and the flowers and the beautiful of the Mother Nature, doing with friends. There's no other feeling.
Thank you.
Anthony, to your point, to this day, Rich, Mo, Steve, don't we still talk about Powerline? Listen, we did like a half marathon, crazy trail run out in Germantown one day. And it was probably one of the hardest runs that we've ever had, but it was very, very beautiful as well. And to this day, we still talk about that run that we went on more than any other run that we've ever been on. We kind of call it trauma bonding. In a good way, in a good way.
As a therapist, I don't like using that language.
But it's beautiful in that, because that's the thing those are the things, the moments that life is made of. Like, really.
Absolutely. One of the other struggles that people have in coming into the trail running space is that it's often not the most welcoming, right? That obviously the spaces that you have built, that I've built, are spaces intentionally for new people, people of color. One of the reasons that the toolkit that RIDC and Ultra put together is amazing is because it lists those communities and people and places that you can go to and for sure feel a sense of welcoming. So I wonder, for each of you, what advice would you give to club leaders, crew leaders, people looking to start events in the trail? How do you create a space where they know that they belong, where they feel welcome? It's not just like, yeah, show up. It's, we made this for you.
Be yourself. Run it exactly how you would want to run it. And I guess for the club leaders to be intentional about how they are, and emphasizing that they don't necessarily, like, the people don't have to follow their lead in terms of how they go about doing it, whether it's pace, whether it's about how they dress, whether it's about where they want to go. Literally, the space is for yourself, and everyone is there doing their thing. I mean, there's plenty of times when we have groups of, say 8 people, you'll find that over a stretch of, say, a mile, no 2 people are closer than, say, a tenth of a mile apart. Everybody's together. But also possibly having, like, every, say, mile checkpoints to where everybody can come up and say, hey, are you good? You good? You good? You good? Just so everybody can, you never know what people are going through. You never know what people are going through that day on the trail. So it's kind of like check-in points. But outside of that, do your thing.
I see this as a question for, so we see now, especially in the last 5 years with the murder of Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, a lot of run communities began because they felt safe within their own community. And those groups that I see today are thriving in every single way. And I see that question directed at run clubs that have existed for a long time and have predominantly just let it grow into the run club without doing like the community outreach and engaging with other local run clubs that began in the last 5 years or even before. But I think it heavily relies on doing like a self-evaluation of your brand or your run store or whomever's leading these efforts to look at what seats aren't filled, who's missing from this community, who is missing a seat at this table, and how do we fill those seats meaningfully and respectfully, and how do you engage with the local community in doing that outreach and making sure that you're not making those other groups feeling like they're tokenized or being put on a pedestal or filling a check in the box, as we still see that happening today. And I always will advocate for a budget to always be backing that support of community outreach when you're wanting to build coalitions and wanting to build community, that you need to invest back into the community and building that long road of trust. So yeah, I see that as being directed in 2 different ways, because a lot of the work that Rising Hearts does is we really try to work with run stores and run clubs who have lacked in that, and they come and seek our support and services and ask questions and consultations of what can they be doing better, and we kind of serve as that like bridge connector and help connect them to community, to people that we are really grateful to have, built relations with. We're kind of like a dating app matchmaker, I would say. Like Rising Hearts is like, we just want to connect people to good people who can do good work and show up for each other meaningfully and respectfully. And yeah, I think that just goes a long way with doing the work yourself of who's not here and what are we doing to maybe make it not feel safe. Is that why we're missing the ball on here? And I look at the run clubs where I come from in Harrisonburg, and I'm trying to do a lot of work with them, because the run clubs I did show up, I was the only brown person there. And it was really weird because all the conversations they wanted to talk about were so like face value, things that like I don't care about. I don't care about talking about how fast I ran the previous weekend or what race is coming up. Like, I want to talk about a free Palestine. Like, I want to talk about the things that are happening in our country, in the world, things that matter, the things that drive me to want to put one foot in front of the other. And that completely lacked, and I didn't feel safe, I didn't feel supported, and now we're trying to like have those questions with these run leaders and run stores of how can this change? And it's a lot of work, it's a lot of taxing work, especially for me being the only brown person trying to do it. But it's led to some pretty cool collaborations and meeting up with our fellow friends just across the mountain, Prolific Run Club, who we've been starting to do some work with this summer. But yeah, it's all a process. It's all about self-evaluation and asking those really hard questions and being committed to doing that work.
I know starting a run club and working retail, there's not a lot of money going around. There's not a lot of staff. But as simple as saying, hello, how are you? What's going on? Asking questions about their lives, about your runners, learning about where they come from, if they have any summer vacation, or where they work at, or what they do for fun. Those small little moments creates life partners. And a lot of my good friends has come through run clubs. So just checking up on people, seeing how they are, making sure they have someone to follow. Because if I get lost, I'm not coming back to your run club. Hey, I got lost many, many times. Through run clubs, by myself, through friends, but if I have someone to follow or know where the turnaround point is, I'm more likely to come back. I'm more likely to step up and maybe volunteer, show up, having touch points that celebrate my identity or the community. Just go out your way. It doesn't have to be too much, but spending 1-2 minutes think about all the new runners that come into your space, especially BIPOC folks, women, because there's a lot of run clubs that are just for Caucasian men or women. And I don't fit those demographics. I don't look like that. So it's like very hard for me to join and feel part of it. And that was like a long time ago, and currently run clubs are amazing. There's Black Men Run that does an amazing job. Blanking out on run clubs.
I know, I'm
right
like,
now.
don't start, because then you're gonna have to list a lot of names. But what I appreciate about what you said is that sometimes it's just like small things, right? Because it can feel overwhelming. Oh my God, these are all of the things that I have to do. But recognizing that sometimes it's just seeing another person's humanity, being curious about somebody, asking about them, that can create that sense of connection that then leads to trust, safety. Will, I'll give you the floor to put in your 2 cents.
Okay. The 2 cents is +5. First of all, my friends call me Worldwide Will because I do travel all over the world running races. Will run whatever race he wants to, and he does not care if you want him to be there or not. I have run in many races where there was nobody in there with a speck of color except for me. I'm not there for them. I am there for me. This is my experience totally. Now, as far as them reaching out to our communities, one of the things that I realized that could help is if they just showed up at the events where we are at.
Yes.
If you're not reaching out with a hand across the water to say, hey, I want to see what you guys are doing. Let's take Black Men Run, for instance. We have partnerships with only a select number of companies. And our senior leadership team, they make sure that those companies are invested in what is going to help us. They're going to promote us, not just want our money. They want to know, and believe me, one of the guys that's on the senior leadership team, he knows when the wool is being pulled over his eyes. He is going to basically rip you apart before he finds out whether or not he's going to work with you or not. So with those kind of things in mind, it's like, well, I want to make sure that you have my personal, as an organization, interest vested in, and not just yours. This is a mutual partnership here. So doing things like, again, I say, showing up to events, volunteering at them, because you don't know, like Anthony said, finding out what someone's story is, because unless you know what those individuals need or why they won't show up at your events, and you don't show up there to ask them, because they're not coming to your venue or to your store to find out why aren't you asking me to come there. They're staying in their community. So you have to come out of your comfort zone and come and talk to those people and see what they need, not for your own personal interest, but because you actually care. And a lot of times that's what we find a lot of manufacturers is all about the dollar, right? So and it's always going to be about the dollar, but make sure that dollar is about caring as well. So yes, definitely doing those things is, like I said, volunteering, talking to people, shaking hands. And people don't realize how important it is to shake hands sometimes, because when you shake someone's hand, you know whether that person wants to shake your hand or not. If you ever had someone shake your hand and it was a weak handshake, yes, exactly. And it's like, what the heck was that? He's like, no. So, I mean, and I didn't say this before, but I'm a massage therapist, so self-employed. So, for people that have ever had massages and someone's giving you a massage and you felt like that was a weak massage, what was that about? You could tell that person was not trying to touch you. It's the same thing with the handshake. I know that person didn't really care to give me that massage. And I'm like, no, I'm never going back to that person again. Same thing. Why should I come invest in your company, your organization? Because you don't really care. So that's really the bottom line, is making sure that they step across the aisle, reach out to our communities, show that they really are invested in it, not even show about promoting yourself. It doesn't even have to be in media, but if they're curious about you, they're going to ask. So that's my personal take on it.
I appreciate that, and I see a future panel about how to create effective and meaningful partnerships, ones that are mutually beneficial. Can we give a round of applause to this brain trust right here? Their information is on this board. I encourage you to stick around, ask them questions, and follow all the work that they do, and me as well. It is now perhaps the best time of the morning. It is time to give away some free stuff.